So who really pays for tariffs? The short answer is we do. American businesses and ultimately American consumers pay for them through higher prices. But I'm sure you've heard political leaders claim that foreign countries are the ones footing the bill. This simple-sounding tax is actually one of the most misunderstood ideas in economics, and it has a direct impact on the price of stuff you buy every single day.
All right, so what exactly is a tariff? In the simplest terms, it's an import tax. Think of it like a cover charge for goods coming into the country. And here's the key part. In the United States, that tax isn't a bill that gets mailed to the foreign country or the company that made the product. Nope, it's paid by the American company that's bringing the goods in, right at the border.
And this, right here, is where all the confusion comes from. The idea that another country just writes a check to cover the cost is a really powerful political soundbite, isn't it? But it just doesn't line up with how the system actually works. So if an American importer is the one paying the tax, how does that cost eventually snake its way into your wallet? Well, let's follow the money.
Welcome to Social Civics, a channel where we break down the ideas, systems, and institutions that shape our civic life. To really get to the bottom of how tariffs work, we're going to trace their journey from start to finish. We'll look at what a tariff is, follow its path to you, the consumer, figure out why governments use them, weigh the pros and cons, and see how they pop up in your daily life.
So let's start with the absolute basics. You've probably heard the word tariff tossed around a lot, especially when politicians start talking about trade wars. But even if you don't follow the news, you've definitely felt their impact. It's that subtle little price hike on a new phone or maybe a car that leaves you kind of wondering, hang on, wasn't this cheaper last year? A tariff is often the invisible ingredient behind that higher price tag.
Here's how it works in the real world. There's an official party called the importer of record. Let's just say that's an American car company that ordered a shipment of parts from overseas. When that giant container ship pulls into port, that American company has to pay the tariff tax directly to US Customs. The goods literally don't leave the port until that tax is paid.
But that payment at the port, that's just the first domino to fall. This is where a ripple effect kicks in. The cost starts with the importer, but trust me, it does not stop there. Let's trace exactly where that cost goes next.
Okay, so here's that ripple effect in 4 steps. Step 1, the importer pays the tax to get the parts. Now that importer is a business, so they can't just eat that cost. Step 2, they pass it on. They raise the price of the parts they sell to, say, an auto manufacturer. Step 3, the manufacturer now has higher costs, so they build that extra amount into the final price of the car. And finally, step 4, you walk into the dealership and that initial tax has been passed all the way down the line and is baked right into the sticker price you pay.
Okay, so if the final bill lands on people right here at home, you gotta wonder, why do governments use tariffs in the first place? It seems a little counterintuitive, right? Well, it turns out they've been a tool in the economic toolbox for centuries, and they're used for a whole host of reasons. In fact, tariffs are as old as the United States itself. One of the first major laws ever passed was the Tariff Act of 1789, and it was used to pay off Revolutionary War debt. Fast forward to 1930, you have the famous Smoot-Hawley tariffs, which raised taxes on imports so high that they pretty much choked off international trade, which a lot of economists believe actually made the Great Depression worse. And today, the reasons for using them are even more complex.
When you boil it all down, governments usually have a few key goals in mind. A huge one is protection. You know, shielding new or struggling American industries from cheaper foreign competitors. This is often tied to the goal of saving or creating American jobs. Of course, tariffs also raise money for the government. Sometimes the reasons are about national security, making sure the country isn't too dependent on others for critical supplies. And finally, they can be used as a bargaining chip to put political pressure on other countries.
As you can probably guess, these goals don't come for free. They come with some major trade-offs. Putting a tariff in place is an economic balancing act, and it almost always creates winners and losers, all within the same country.
So on one side of the scale, you have the intended benefits, protecting American companies and their workers. But on the other side, you've got the consequences. The most immediate one, higher prices for you and me. Then there's the risk of what's called retaliation. It's like a trade tit for tat. We tax their goods, so they turn around and tax ours. That really hurts American exporters trying to sell their products overseas. And as we've seen, it can just throw a huge wrench into the supply chains for businesses right here at home.
And here's the real irony. This quote from a car dealership nails it. A policy that's meant to protect jobs can sometimes put those very jobs at risk. If the cost of imported parts gets too high for a US manufacturer, they might have to make a really tough choice. Scale back their operations, or even move production somewhere cheaper. And that, of course, puts American jobs on the line.
So let's bring this all down from the 30,000-foot view of economics and right into your daily life. Where might you actually be feeling the effects of tariffs, maybe without even realizing it? So what does this look like in dollars and cents? Well, this data from the Joint Economic Committee gives us a pretty good idea. It estimates that some tariffs could lead to an almost 11% price hike on electronics, a 7.5% jump for clothing, and over 6% for cars. I mean, when you think about how much we all spend on those things in a year, those are not small changes. Let's zoom back in on that car example for a second. When the government puts tariffs on basic raw materials, things like steel and aluminum, that extra cost gets baked into the car from the very beginning. By the time that shiny new car hits the dealership lot, that tax on raw materials can add thousands of dollars to the final price tag you see. And this impact isn't felt the same way everywhere. It really depends on where you live. Take a look at this. In a state like Louisiana, trade makes up a staggering 42% of the entire state's economy. In Michigan, it's 35%. For states like these, tariffs, and especially those retaliatory tariffs from other countries, aren't just some abstract economic idea. They can have a huge, direct impact on local jobs and local businesses. So after tracing this entire journey from the port all the way to the store shelf, we end up right back where we started, with a really clear takeaway. Tariffs are a tax paid by American importers. And while all the economic ripple effects are super complex, that initial cost almost always gets passed down the chain until it's finally paid by us, American consumers and businesses, in the form of higher prices.
So now that you can see the full journey of a tariff's cost, how does it change the way you hear about trade policy? The next time you hear someone claim that another country will pay the tariff, you'll understand the real mechanics behind who actually carries that cost. If you're interested in learning more about the ideas and institutions that shape our civic life, consider subscribing to Social Civics. This channel exists to help everyday citizens better understand the systems we all live under. Thanks for watching.